Hey guys, DMS here. Today I have for you the Ultrasone Pro 580i. Let's check them out. This is a $200 closed-back Pro headphone that is made in Bavaria. The design is very reminiscent of a lot of other Pro headphones I've seen around. High clamp force, small pads, both inner diameter-wise and depth-wise. Not particularly comfortable. They went through and did the cardinal sin of putting the padding right in the middle and not on the sides. It should be the exact opposite, closer to the sides and less in the middle. Good example being the HT6XX. That is proper padding. This is going to get uncomfortable. But the articulation is good. I wish there was a removable cable. The clicking mechanism for adjusting them up and down is actually pretty nice and tactile, though I really wish it was made with nicer materials. It does feel pretty cheap for a $200 headphone. When I open this, you kind of just see all the little plastic bits here stretch out, which, I mean, that could be part of the design, but it doesn't make me feel very comfortable about putting this headphone on my head. And it's about right here when I put them on, which you look at that and you think that looks pretty wide, but really these pads are just very small. There's a sticker here on the back with the Ultrasone branding, which I actually think looks kind of nice, to be honest. And then you have a nice long cable here, which terminates to 3.5mm with a connector that you can screw on to make it a 6.3mm or 1/4 inch adapted. Underneath the pad, we have a look at this interesting baffle design, which I assume has to do with their S-Logic technology, which from what I've read affects the soundstage and essentially makes it easier to listen to the headphone at lower volumes, which my experience more on it is that it forces you to listen to the headphone at lower volumes rather than makes it more possible to listen to the headphone at lower volumes. Alright, I'm sure you guys can already tell I have some gripes with this headphone. Unfortunately, this isn't a super positive review, and I hate that. I hate making negative reviews, but it does keep going, so let's get into sound. I'm going to talk about sound in two ways. I'll start with the headphone just as it is, plugged up to a variety of amplifiers to listen to it. It's very, 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 very sibilant. I don't know how many varies that was, but it probably wasn't enough. You can comment how many varies that was if you want. It's like someone took the first generation of the Beyer T1 and doubled its peaks. This is actually a headphone that sounds more sibilant than the DT990 Pro. In fact, I would say this sounds like an emphasized version of the DT990 Pro with very heavy bass and very, very, very heavy, erratic, sibilant treble. I listened to this headphone for about a month, and then I measured it afterwards. So I'm going to pull up my measurements on this headphone. This is the raw measurement of the headphone, and then the compensated measurement of the headphone, compensated to my target curve shown here. That is a lot of treble, and that is a lot of bass. It's common for a lot of closed-back headphones to show a dip in this 200 to 300 hertz region. It does make the headphones sound colder, and I'm not saying that my graph is the word of the law when it comes to the positioning and height of every treble spike, but truth be told, the height of these treble spikes, if anything, I believe the graph is undervaluing. I think that these spikes are actually likely higher than this is even showing, because I actually tried for once to EQ this headphone to make it a bit more listenable, and this is what I came up with both results compensated to my target curve here. Even with the treble pulled down this much, the headphone still sounded extremely sharp and sibilant in the treble. I just couldn't make it go away. I could turn the treble down to where it was barely audible, 6 decibels below this at certain points, even 10 decibels below this at certain points, and the treble would be really quiet compared to everything else and still sibilant. It is probably the most metallic headphone I've ever heard. I will say, it does have good soundstage. That's one thing this headphone absolutely nailed, is closed back soundstage. This thing gets right up there with things like the Modhaus Argon in terms of soundstage, and honestly imaging as well. But it was really hard to pay attention to those things over how sharp the treble is. At $200, Now I'm going to pull up another graph here for comparison. This is comparing to the AKG K361, a headphone I've talked about several times. The Pro 580i's RAW is in blue, and the K361's RAW is in red. And then again, here's both results, but compensated for my target curve. The K361 compensated in red, and the Pro 580i compensated in blue. The really big differences here are that the K361 doesn't have the big spikes, and the bump in the bass is shifted much lower. Now, the K361 still has a fair amount of bass, but because of the positioning of where it is, the K361 goes into more of an extended range, whereas the 580i ends up having a bass boost in a very boomy range. And while they look similar in the low end, it's drastic how different those two headphones sound. They sound like completely different, opposite ends of the spectrum, with the K361 being vastly superior in almost every way except for soundstage. But the real kicker is that the K361 is half the cost. Well, if we're going by Amazon anyway, the K361 is half the cost. There are some places where I see the Pro 580i on sale, 89 euros on the Ultrasone website right now, which all things considered is more reasonable than the original price. But the K361 exists, and as much as I hate to say it, even things like the M50X, which I really don't like at all, exist, and are better than this. Now, I would like to think that this is just one thing that Ultrasone may not have done correctly, because this is my first introduction to their headphones. I got an email asking if I wanted to check out something else from them. I want to say it was an on-ear DJ style headphone, so I'm going to try that and see if it's better than this one. But man, the Pro 580i is a mess. I'm not sure how this thing made it out into the wild, or if someone just said, hey, let's make a really, really, really bright headphone because people sometimes like that. And you know what? There are probably people out there who love really bright headphones like this. But that, it just drowns out everything good that this headphone could have brought to the table, between the lack of comfort and the lack of really what I would describe as a listenable sound signature. Another thing I'm a bit confused on is there was a big Made in Bavaria sticker on the box, but on the headphone right here it says Made in Taiwan, so not really sure what to believe on that one. Anyway, I don't really think we need to rant about this too much more. I think I'll just start pissing people off if I haven't already. So, Ultrasone, if you end up watching this video, sorry I don't like your Pro 580i. Maybe something else you guys have is a little bit different. I'd love to check it out. To everyone else watching, you should check out the K361. I'll have it linked in the video description. It is a great headphone for the money. But that is it today, guys. That is all I have for you. If you like this video, please leave a like down below, a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community, you can at forum.hifiguides.com. And as always, don't forget to stick around and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until the next one, guys. Peace.